Welcome to Millions of Screens, IndieWire's TV industry-focused podcast. I'm creative producer Leo Garcia, joined via Zoom by TV Awards editor Libby Hill and TV deputy editor Ben Travers. We're still abiding by California shelter-in-place laws and social distancing in our apartments, but on today's episode, we have an extended chat with Pamela Adlon, the inimitable creator, star, showrunner of FX's Better Things.
It's how you said.
Inimitable.
Is that how you say?
Is that how you say Pamela Adlon?
It sounded like you said we're trying to say inevitable. And then
the inevitable creator, star, and showrunner. Like, if there's one thing we learned, it's that Pamela Adlon is inevitable.
I agree. You think that she's not going to be in that
Ben doesn't understand that reference.
This is millions and millions of little screens.
Can't you shut up? I'm busy. Boy, what a great show.
Skipping ahead to the clicker, our recap of the biggest news items from this past week. Since we last recorded, guys, there has been a wave of renewals and cancellations. ABC made waves for canceling some shows that people were sort of up in arms about. Bless This Mess and Single Parents, prime among them. They also canceled Emergence and the Goldberg spinoff Schooled. Another renewal that made some news, It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, will be coming back for a record-setting 15th season for a live-action comedy. But there's been a lot of it in the news. I wanted to get your guys' perspective. What are you most excited about that's coming back?
I'm excited about Better Things getting renewed. Not that it was ever in question that the show would come back for a 5th season, but you just like to know it's there. You know it's in writing. You know it's in the works. Even in this time where nothing is actually in the works, it's a comfort to know that there's still a commitment to making the best shows in television.
Well, and it's honestly a relief on my end to know that kind of FX endorsement still has some weight to it, because Better Things is a show that doesn't get a huge traffic bump. We don't know exactly what the FX on Hulu joint partnership has done for its viewership stats, but you can still assume that if it was huge, they'd be bragging about it like they were with Dave. So that's a show that survived on critical support, on the relationships that have been built between network and talent, and the potential for awards. But all of that was forged well before Disney came into the picture, and now that they've kind of firmly asserted their control over FX and branding in general, it's great to see that Landgraf's favorite shows are still going to make it through. And, that's a simpler way to put it than it deserves, but yeah.
So with that being said, Ben, what were you most excited? I mean, I know the answer. What were you most excited to see returning?
I was both pleasantly surprised as pleasantly surprised as everybody else when Adult Swim announced Toucan Birdie was getting a 2nd season. The former Netflix show that was canceled last July, I believe. We hadn't heard much about it from anybody, and then last week you get an email that says on Tuesday they're going to announce a renewal, and that renewal announcement came out a little earlier than we thought because of some overeager parties, none of which are speaking or looking at you right now. But yeah, I was so thrilled to see that series be able to continue because it was such a strong first season. It was so creative. They found such a kind of rich world and built these great relationships between characters, and they were exploring all these different kind of animated possibilities within Lisa Hannawald's vision, and it was just really exciting to kind of live there. But season 2 is where you really get to explore stuff. Like, that's when you're like, okay, we have the one under our belt. We feel good about 70, 80, 90% of it. Let's see what we can do with the new stories and build from there. And Adult Swim is a place that, always embraces pretty out there, weird stuff. So I don't feel like they're going to get, turned away from anything they want to try to do. So it'll be exciting to see what they come up with.
It was very much like when someone gets you the perfect present that was never on your radar. You never would have thought to ask for it for yourself. You didn't even know it existed, that it was a possibility, and someone just is hands it to you and is like, I know you kind of like this stuff, so I got you this. And that's how the second season, getting a second season of Tuca and Birdie feels like. We didn't even think we could hope for that. And then Adult Swim came through, and I'm very excited about it.
I now realize that we probably should have done those in reverse order, because Better Things would have been a perfect segue to our interview with Pam. Maybe I'll move them around. But if I don't, guys, we had the chance to talk to Pamela Adlon last week for an extended interview. We talked about all sorts of things: the finale, her relationship with the city,
Sergeant Bilko,
plump fiction. I mean, we hit all the major talking points one would want to hit when talking about season 4 of Better Things. Well, without further ado, here's our interview with Pam.
Well, to kick off some Better Things conversations, I feel like we blew past the perfect pivot point because it is the happy, wonderful thing we can talk about to feel good right now. And it has definitely been that as the season was airing. But I haven't gotten to talk to you about the finale. And the first thing that I wanted to ask was just seeing Sam Fox watch some of her work with her kids, and then her kids responding to it felt so monumental for the show. But I wasn't sure if that was something that came out of like a specific moment in your life. Like, was that like, I don't know how, children respond to anything. I don't have kids, but I've been told it's rather hard to get them to watch anything that you want them to watch. So how did that scene come about? And was it from anything?
That was really just like a thing that, because the storyline of the Sam making her own like remotes on the Jessica Barden show, which is just it was like ridiculous. Like, I don't even know. Like, Jess came over to my house for dinner, and with Max Winkler, who's the funniest person in the world, and we're sitting there, and we hadn't seen each other since we shot that movie in Chillicothe, Ohio, Holler. And she's like sitting there, and she's everything, and being Jess, and I realized, oh my God, she should play a person who gives me like this shot. Mm-hmm. And so it tied in all these storylines. And if you think back to the eulogy episode when the girls didn't want to watch and Sam throws a tantrum, stomps out, and Rich and Tressa are like, no, bro, I'm not even gonna, you just were so insane to your mom. And the girls don't care. They're not watching their mom's thing. And it's like weird being an actor. And I've had those things with my kids. And it's very, very rare that there's ever been a time that we sit and watch something, because I certainly couldn't do that with them when I was on Californication or anything like that, Yep. So then, now that Better Things is on, they're like, I can't watch that one because I didn't watch the end of this season and this and that. So they want to control their viewing, which is the way people like to watch television now, or whatever it's called. So it was a great way to tie it in, to bring it back to it was really complicated to construct it. The women's testimonials. I wanted to do women talking about themselves like it was a Philip K. Dick, like In Shadows, witness protection. It's too shameful to talk about. I played with disguising their voices, but that like took you out of it. And so to be able to tie that into Jess Barden watching at the studio doing, and then Sam Fox doing the thing live, and then all of a sudden you pull out and it's Sam and Rich and the girls, and it makes me emotional to think about it, because it was very satisfying as somebody who has been in this world for 4 seasons, to be able to do it that way and to see it turn out that way. Watching the girls' faces, and Sam talking about their bodies, and just, Max looking at Sam saying, I didn't know that you felt that way. And them being proud of their mom, that she's that's her manifesto, you know, and that she's like, you know, even the Dalai Lama was like, you know, a woman's okay, but you got to be cute. So, and I'm not making it up. Go look at the interview.
No,
Yeah.
That lady gave him like 4 chances to dial it back.
Yep. No, he's a man of faith, and he sticks with it, I guess. But,
There you go.
But yeah, I just, that scene again, like one of the complicated elements to me was just the idea that, you know, so much of your show is built in a reality. Like it feels, you know, very fly on the wall, kind of we're experiencing things as they happen. And to create that moment risks that feeling of making it manufactured. Like it could have felt like, oh, this, I don't know if the kids would have really engaged with this, or I don't know if this was the right moment, but you just hit every one of those beats so that by the time we saw it, I don't know, it worked. Like it was something that, again, felt very natural and lived in.
Thank you.
Amazing how often you can keep doing that, I guess. So.
Well, you know, I mean, it's hard to, because at the end of the day, you've got the writing, the production, then you've got post. And so originally I had 4 editors this season, and I had 1 editor on that episode originally, and it just was not working. It was not working. And I was scared of the episode, and I thought, oh, well, I'll just end on Botsonietta. That's it. We'll go out on the penultimate, but eventually we got other eyes on it. And that's why I was so lucky to have like this team, because I really wanted my editors to work together as a cohesive unit. And so then I had these other 2 women come in and help, and it just opened up, and I was like, I need this feeling, I need this. And then Annie, one of my editors, put my old photographs in the montage when Fort is driving us from Dodger Stadium.
Right.
And like some of those are my pictures from the 80s. And, you know, that's how this stuff all comes together. It's really like ends up being a team effort.
And the girls get to chime in with their own jokes at the end of once it finishes airing about the balls versus the eggs.
Yes. She's got eggs. And then Sam touches her whisker and she goes, but does she though? No, she don't got no eggs no more.
My mind is, I feel like Sam in the weed episode.
Yeah.
Well, no. I
In
feel
the
like
which
Sam in the weed
episode?
episode.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Bye man.
Actually, I real life did that accidentally in our happy hour last week, and it was a disaster.
Zoom happy hour.
I real life did it when I was writing season 3. And it was a high anxiety time for me writing season 3. It was an intense time in my life. And so my oldest, Gideon, took me to my first weed store, which like still trips me out to this day. So I put a little bit of that in the episode. And I was like, I want this sexy gold pen. You know, it was so sexy. It was this beautiful thing. And they were like, that's THC and whatever. And I was like, well, I don't want that ugly thing. I want this. Anyway, so I go to the office one day and my nerves were jangly and I thought I should do a little CBD and work. You know, my kids were encouraging me CBD. So I did it. And then like an hour later, I'm sitting in the office just like this. And I called my kids and they were laughing at me and they were like, Mom! I was like, I can't move or think right now. And so I got to work at 10 o'clock that day. I was high until 5 o'clock p.m. I did not write one word. I just was like touching surfaces.
Yeah,
I got a show out of it. The day that I lost writing last season, I got, right?
You got a great scene out of it. I loved that scene. And I was curious about, I hear all the time that like drunk acting is one of the harder things to do. And I meant like to do without going too far up or too far down. Yeah. And I imagine acting high is in a similar fashion, but the direction too, like the way that you kind of let the camera float a little bit, and then sometimes you'd let it like kind of lock in on Sam's face, but the rest of it was blurry, and you'd still build in kind of some hard cuts for comedy, like when she's just suddenly outside in the rain. What do you like? How do you kind of prepare for that? Is it a lot of just thinking back to being in that headspace, or like kind of what's the style there?
I had to, in my brain, I'm like, I'm not drunk. So you're not drunk, you're not slurring, but just that, like that feeling that you just want it to be over, So like when Sam's laying on the ground and she's like, oh, I'm just trapped. And she's kind of, it's like altered states. She's smashing her arm on the floor, trying to just get it out. Remember Altered States? And he's going, and he's in the hallway and he's smashing his body, trying to get from that dimension to this one. You guys go watch Altered States tonight.
Definitely
That's a good one.
Yeah, that's great.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. Because when we talked before, I know you were talking about watching a lot of old movies. Like, so what right now, because it's been weeks,
Yeah.
what is getting you through the lockdown? What are you
When I
watching?
talked to you last time, was I talking about like the 80s, 90s crime?
Oh God, what was it, Leo? No, I think it was like the old. It was, I think.
You'd
was
watch
it
An
Black
Officer
and
and a Gentleman.
Whites?
Yeah.
Oh wait, well, like no, it was The Officer and Gentleman.
I showed
Has
that
better
to the
memory
kids.
than I do.
Oh, Urban Cowboy. Yeah, I was going down this, like, for me, it's like anything that is Nancy Myers, Mike Nichols, that's just standard Ben and Pam forever. You know what I mean? Like, right, Ben? Don't you love that shit?
I do. Yeah.
Oh, I mean, it's so good. So then I started just going down this like Jagged Edge, The Firm, Gene Hackman, all of that. I mean, I just
so good.
Love all of it. Sidney Lumet, you can't even, I can't stress enough like how great these movies are. Oh, because Leo, I had shown the girls A Stranger Among Us.
Oh, that.
And it had like that super creepy, like the Kabbalah and like the vaginal secretions part. And we're watching it with my daughter's boyfriend. And he was like, and we all looked at Boris and he goes, I watched this with my mom, like when I was 8. And we were like, what the fuck? So, but it's so funny because when that movie came out, everybody was like, this is so funny. Melanie Griffith is talking about like the perps and her voice and everything. And you watch it now and you're like, this is so good. This is crazy. You see this Hasidic community and all of this, and it holds up. And then you realize it's Sidney Lumet. You had a master making this film. And also the guy is hot as fuck.
Right.
Always helps.
Ooh.
I'm part of a movie group, and we watched the Rainmaker recently, and like that is very much in this vein where it's like Francis Ford Coppola's like last, I would say, real movie.
I want to see that. That's going on my list.
Yeah, that's right in that zone. That's right in that good crime, more of a crime kind of story really than even a courtroom
I like
drama.
that.
So.
It's
Wow,
like
that's some Jack erasure right there.
It's Grisham. It's Grisham.
I love it.
Yeah.
Like we should just watch all movies with rain in the title. How about that?
There we go. Just ties right back to Better Things. It's just the
Segue.
inspiration from season 4. You just pull that right out, and you're like, okay, well,
Perfect
see how these all
segue.
connect.
Yeah. Pam with the segue.
Ben, take us into another real question.
Well, I did want to ask, this is tangentially related to the topic of just watching movies and kind of being absorbed in all of that as much as we can. But the casting on Better Things is something that always impresses me in the sense that there's a lot of recurring characters who are great. There's a lot of actors who keep coming back who we're really happy to see. And at the same time, it feels like you're always making a push to bring in new people. And I know the answer to this question is partially Felicia Fasano, who's just, we know is great. But one, what's that like for you? Like, how do you find people? Do you find people by watching movies, by staying current? Do you find people just through working and through relationships? Is it casting? Is it all of the above? Like, how do you kind of go about that?
Well, I think a lot of people have maybe little pods of friend groups, and some people aren't comfortable sharing their friends with each other, or some people just don't. So then there's this little group, and then there's this little group, and you never really bring them all together until like there's one like 50th birthday party or whatever. So I have little groups of people, and I decided it would be interesting to see a new group of people in season 3. For example, so that's why I brought in Cree and Judy Reyes and Rose Abdu, who's a genius. And, I mean, there's people that I know that I love and admire. And so it's like Diedrich, for years, he was in my brain. I'm like, if I ever get the chance to be a boss and do something, I want to work with Diedrich. Cree, I thought of because we've been working together for 30 years, and I knew she hadn't been on camera in 25 years. So that was just like the greatest thing that I could do, is put this person who was always just this shiny penny in every way in my show, and it's a win-win for everybody.
Right. Yeah, it really is.
And then Jen Richards, who she plays she's in the eulogy episode in the acting class. And I did I talk to you about this, Libby?
I feel like we talked a little bit about Jen. Yeah.
Like I saw her at a Women's Day downtown, and we were all speaking, and Jen was there, and I was like, who is this fucking beautiful unicorn? And then I watched her entire show the next morning, cursory. And then I called Flea and I said, do you think that she would do like a little part in the show or whatever? And so we offered her for the acting class, and it was her and Wong, you're boring, wave your arms around, I'm falling asleep. And Jen, like, she's doing this scene, and I'm like, Jaya, stop it, don't cry. And Jen's crying, and she's beautiful and amazing. So then for the beginning of season 3 or whatever, or the beginning episode, I was like, we're having a house party, let's invite Jen. So you just think about faces and people, and that's a detail in the world of the show. Just like that I wear the same clothes. I'm like, I don't need new clothes. Let's see Sam wearing the same thing for 3 seasons. That's the way the world works.
Yeah.
So it's fun. We're able to have fun in the wedding scene. Like when Kunal and Randy Rainbow get married, I was like, we need the people from Flight whatever.
That's great.
We need John and Deborah, right?
Yeah.
So good.
Oh, and it was so good to see them. And for me, it means a lot. And then when, somebody sees and says that was so good, and I'm somebody who's like, I'm so sorry, it's really not a lot in this episode, and there was no dialogue or whatever, but just being within the fabric of that scene was like life-changing for everybody. It just felt so good.
Well, I'm glad you brought up Diedrich, because he's somebody who I feel like I've been watching my whole life, and he pops up and he's been in everything. He's done everything. And at the same time, when I watch him in this, I feel like we're seeing a range of what he can do, like stretched, like again and again. And especially in season 4, starting with, the breakup and how he reacts to the breakup, to kind of those ending episodes when he's a little bit of the enforcer, when he's talking to Sam's ex. There's just little nuggets of that that's so fun to kind of, appreciate. But when you're writing, are you looking for that? Like, are you trying to find new things for him to do, or are you just, you have the character and you know where he's going to go?
I wish that I could have him in more. And anybody watching this, please don't ask me to put Diedrich in anymore, because he's got a fucking contract with American Housewife on ABC, and I don't want to hear about it anymore.
Right, understandable.
And they let me put him in 3 episodes. That's all I get. So in season 2, I had written him into 5. They were going to let him do 2, and he negotiated for 3. Wow. So the scene when Sam and Tressa are in the bar, and Tressa talks about her dad and her brothers, that was a scene for Rich. And that was really Diedrich's story. Yeah. That was his story. And so it was one of those things that, unfortunately, Diedrich couldn't do it, but then Rebecca Metz was able to be in the scene, and it kind of took it to another level. So there's all these different kinds of things that happen, but the love I have for Diedrich Bader is, I can't even begin to stress, like, how it's opened, us both up, and that this relationship between Sam and Rich is such a love story, and it's like a romance, and it's safe, and it's just unconditional. And Rich is a husk at the beginning of season 4, and then he's a linebacker at the end, and they're both there for each other, and it's just like gives me chills. I love that relationship.
It's just really fun, and again, it applies to so many of the different actors, like including Rebecca whenever she comes back.
Like
having that kind of personal touch to it, or that relationship that's been built in little small moments over the course of a season, or even a career. It just adds to the show. Like, it adds to the emotions of what you're watching in a way that I feel like you're very good at drawing out. Like, you're very good at identifying. And it's hard for me to tell if it's just a natural instinct of like, these people are great, I'm going to bring them in. If it's, I'm going to stretch them to this area because I know they could do it, or, just the combination of all of those thoughts. But the supporting people within Better Things are just, it's so fun to watch.
Thank you.
Also, fuck Xander. Can we talk about the return of Xander a little bit in this season? Because
blind mouth of Charlie Brown.
Yeah, he's quite a presence. And again, the acting choice is good. Like, that's a good person.
Well, I would refer you guys to a movie that did not make any kind of a blip on the radar. Maybe a blip, called Plump Fiction. That was a spoof of all the Tarantino movies. And that's where I met Matt Glave. And he and I were Mickey and Mallory. So I was Juliette Lewis, and we were parodying Natural Born Killers. And like Sandy Bernhardt's in this movie, and David Allen Greer. You gotta see this movie. It's
I'm writing it down now.
Yeah.
That's great. Yeah.
I can tell Leah's
Matt and I met.
Yeah.
We were playing Mickey and Mallory. We were spoofing them. And I mean, this is a movie that they lost their funding so hard in the middle of shooting. We had a green screen, and it was supposed to be like the lizards and all of that shit. And Bob Cohair, the director, who was this lovely man, he was like, we can't afford it anymore. So just get it out. And so it was so funny. So Matthew Glave and I, we met doing that show, and like the day we met, we had to like lick each other's faces. And he was the nicest person I ever worked with, and he really helped me because he was so respectful. And he just pulled me to the side and he said, what do you feel comfortable with? Can I touch your arm? Can I touch the side of your face? I'll keep my mouth closed. Can I open my lips a little bit? And by the end of it, I was just like, ah! And that was something I learned a lot from, and then doing Californication then years later.
Oh yeah.
You know, helping people with that kind of stuff, because there was no such thing as an intimacy coordinator back then. I was
No.
one. But yeah, Xander, that has nothing to do with my show, but that's fun.
No, that's great.
No,
That's
I
like the
love
hidden
it.
backstory that we never see of how they met, and we'll just pretend that was what it was.
Are you flirting with me? You guys have to see my Juliette Lewis.
I can't wait to watch your Juliette Lewis. That sounds fantastic.
I will download Plump Fiction and edit it into this video.
And then, yes. And then later, I made a movie with Juliette Lewis called Some Girl. And come in. Who's there?
I don't know. Somebody's at my door.
It's Barack Obama.
I'll be right back.
What a huge get for us.
Well, yeah, what'd you get, Ben?
I love that you brought up Plump Fiction, only because that's sort of my wheelhouse, because I'm like the outsider on the podcast. I'll be like, let's talk about Sergeant Bilko.
Oh my God.
This is your window. Go, Leo. Ben's gone.
Plump Fiction has a lot, like Paul Dinello.
That's who I was trying to think of. Paul Dinello.
Tim Kazurinsky, Tommy Davidson, Jennifer Coolidge, Dan Castellaneta.
Holy shit.
Yeah, and there's somebody who at the end does the best. Yeah!
What the fuck?
Put it down and wash your hands, Benjamin.
True.
That's what he's doing. But Leo, you're the comedy guy. How have you not seen this?
And wash your hands.
I just did.
Okay.
Just did. Sorry, guys. That
But
was,
I went to do, I did a movie called Some Girl with Juliette Lewis, and I was like, I spoofed you at the end. And we love each other.
You didn't open with that.
I just showed that movie to Rocky a couple of weeks ago. Blew her mind. Some Girl.
I would have loved it if Julie Lewis was like, Plump Fiction is one of my favorite movies. One of my faves. In the pantheon of great film. Got it.
did I miss Sergeant Bilko? I heard something over the
Leo did.
over the thing. He asked the question.
I won $2,600 on a slot machine when we were in Vegas. Like, I just went downstairs and I was just like, plink, plink, plink. It was amazing. That's when they still had coins. But Steve Martin was the best. He was so lovely. He was always like, I mean, people were obsessed with him, you know, wherever we went. And I would just be doing crosswords and he'd be like looking over my shoulder. I'd be like, girl. But, you know, everybody else wanted to talk to him and I gave him his space. And that's how we became friends and close during that time. And there was just an incredible, I mean, I had to learn how to walk in columns and assemble and disassemble an M16.
Oh, wow.
And Captain Dale Dye was our drill sergeant. And, you know, I mean, it's crazy. We did training at Universal Studios in front of the Psycho House. We would be walking in columns, you know, and then there was a crashed plane there from something. And then, I mean, Dan Aykroyd was in that, and Phil Hartman, my angel.
I watched so many sitcoms in the 90s. Like everyone, I was like, yes, I know that person. Yes, I know that person. Yeah, I watch that person regularly.
We were all a bunch of whores. That's why when you're looking at the Plump Fiction, the credits, you're like, oh my God, Meryl Streep is in this. And we just all wanted to work.
That's the way to do it. That seems like the best way.
Exactly.
Well, I know we're hitting the time limit here, but I wanted to ask, and I'm sorry if this came up when you guys talked before, but Pam, I know you are very into paintings, especially in the show, but I'm curious about the ones behind you right now. Who are those by? Are those?
So,
oh, wow.
These are my grandmother's paintings, and it's so interesting because I was saying that to a lot of people, but I should have been saying my grandmother painted all of these.
Yeah.
And that's just some of them.
Unbelievable.
But it's very cool because, like, if you have a collection, it takes it to another level. So if you just had this creepy guy, it would be like, okay.
Kind of upsetting.
Or just this, yes, or him. but you put it all together, and it's one artist, and you see their process. And so my grandmother started painting when she was 50.
Oh my God. There's still hope for me.
This is the cool thing about these is my grandfather made these frames. They're just like these pine frames. And
That's
then
So good.
this is cool because this is my mom. And that's my brother up top there.
Oh, really?
And that's me.
Oh, baby.
And I don't know who anybody else is.
I
That's
love
so
that
great.
woman in white. The one with the woman in white. It has such big like Frida Kahlo energy that
Her. Oh, here.
this one on the one like right dead right there with the guy to the side.
Direct.
She's wearing the big white dress.
Oh, the man and the
yeah.
woman.
Yeah, I love this. This
Well, I'm only
reminds me of
focusing on the woman.
the Victor Clothing Company mural downtown that had Anthony Quinn in it.
Yes.
Remember that?
I think it's still there.
Yeah, it's kind of it's.
I mean,
been
it's
tagged and
dilapidated.
obscured. It's one of those things that we don't take care of in LA.
Well, of course
sadly.
not. No,
Just like our
no.
people. Anyway.
Yeah, downtown.
So far,
Yeah,
yeah.
we could go long on that.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I am this weekend though. The Union Rescue Mission is taking donations. They desperately need clothing. So in case you guys want to know, because everybody's de-hoarding and they're like, I have no place to put it. If you have clothing, they are taking donations every day.
That is
They
brilliant.
desperately need clothing and probably blankets and sheets and stuff. So me and the girls are taking a shit ton of clothes down there this weekend. Exactly. Like you're driving, there's furniture on the streets. People are like, nobody's taking donations. Here is my grandmother's piano. Just get it out.
Right. And I think that's one of the heartwarming things about this is that people are so anxious to do good, and they are kind of at loose ends. So to find out about things like this, to find out places where we can, outside of the donating food, donating money, being socially responsible, like having like a goal and something we can do, something we can give, that's so it's so important right now.
Yeah, it's there's so much. I mean, I'm doing a different kind of social project at least 2 to 3 days a week right now.
That's
There's
brilliant.
stuff that we're doing, like we did the environmental summit, we're helping, we're reading to kids, we're you know what I mean? And then just talking to people and reaching out like helps people mentally. I tend to be a shut-in a little bit. And so if my kids, are all gone, I'll go inward, and it's not good for me. You know what I mean? And I know that I have to have connection like this. So you guys helped me today.
You helped us too.
Yeah.
This is always a pleasure and a life-affirming experience, just like the show. So thank you for sharing, and thank you for making the show, and thank you for making the time. Like you said, you're doing a lot, and it's all very, very, very much appreciated.
We're Team Pam.
Rain Man, singing in the rain, the Rainmaker.
Rainmaker.
Right. I'm going to let Leo construct that list, and we'll run
Chico
through
the
it.
Rainmaker.
Thank you so much, Pam.
Thank
I really
you,
appreciate
guys.
it. Take care of yourself.
You guys take care.
You too.
Send our love
Bye,
to the
guys.
girls.
Say hi to Emily. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye, Leo.
Bye.
Gentlemen,
Yes?
I've heard tell that there's a new series coming out with Darren Criss, Heather Donahue, in which they play songwriters, and it is a satire. And I heard that the show is going to air on Quibi, which is upsetting to me because I had been hoping for different news, let's say. With that in mind, I ask you, is Quibi dead yet?
No.
I think you answered your own question. I don't know if we're needed this week. I think you kind of just had to talk that out and come to terms with it. So I hope you.
The show is called Royalties. That preamble about royalties being Quibi's like death rattle. It's like that's it. That's the noise.
Okay.
That's the noise a streaming service makes before it dies.
Apple has their first musical series coming out too, so let's see how that goes.
Apple's not going anywhere.
They're not going anywhere. They're gonna buy Mad Men.
Also, next week we'll be talking about HBO Max, which we didn't talk about this week, but we'll talk about next week. Millions of Screens is a production of the Penske Media Corporation and IndieWire. Our theme music features excerpts of the classic YouTube video Bjork Talking About Her TV and Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. Our editor-in-chief is Dana Harris-Brightson, our publisher is James Israel, and our executive editor is Ann Donahue. Our favorite movies about rain are The Rainmaker, Hard Rain, and The Art of Racing in the Rain. Our Millions of Screens rainy movie endorsement is Blade Runner. Very famous scene in the rain in Blade. You can find us on Twitter at A Million Screens, at Midwest Spitfire, at Ben T. Travers, and at Leo Adrian Garcia. You can also find the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play, so please leave a review and let us know what you think. If it's good, we might read it on air, and if it's bad, we'll try our best to delete it from the internet. This has been Libby and Leo, reminding you as always that you shouldn't let poets lie to you.
You shouldn't let poets lie to you.
Ain't nothing wrong with a couple of cold brews and a cool podcast.